Mystery, scandal, and Hollywood glamour often go hand in hand, especially when they revolve around two of the most iconic figures from cinema's golden age. Marilyn Monroe, known worldwide as the ultimate blonde bombshell, and Tony Curtis, the charismatic leading man with an irreverent streak, came together in the 1959 classic Some Like It Hot. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, but off-screen, reports of animosity, shocking remarks, and whispers of a clandestine affair have circulated for decades. Did these two stars despise each other? Was it all an act to disguise something far more intimate? Or did Tony Curtis fabricate claims for attention late in his life? In this deep dive, we'll explore the rumors, the controversies, and the shifting narratives to piece together what might have happened when the cameras weren't rolling. From an infamous quip likening Marilyn to a historical tyrant, to the allegations of a secret pregnancy, the story is filled with twists that continue to fascinate fans and film historians. Join us as we unravel the layers surrounding Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and the enduring intrigue of Some Like It Hot. The stars align. When Some Like It Hot premiered in 1959, Marilyn Monroe had already secured her place as a global superstar. She was the face of films that showcased her undeniable allure, comedic timing, and vulnerable charm. By contrast, Tony Curtis, though recognized as a rising talent with successful roles in films like Houdini and Operation Petticoat, did not command quite the same level of global adoration. Yet, pairing these two seemingly opposite forces, alongside comedic genius Jack Lemmon, created a cinematic masterpiece that endures to this day. Audiences were captivated by the movie's unconventional plot: two male musicians escaping the mob by disguising themselves in a women's band, and especially by Monroe's portrayal of the flirtatious and wistful Sugar Cane. Curtis's role as the debonair Joe, in disguise as Josephine, and later adopting another persona as a millionaire, allowed him to show comedic range that few had seen before. As the film soared at the box office, stories began to trickle out about behind-the-scenes tensions. Some suggested that Marilyn's chronic tardiness and multiple retakes deeply frustrated Curtis. Others hinted at something far more personal. Hollywood was notorious for rumor mills, and this film's production was no exception. On set, the relationship between Tony and Marilyn was equal parts professional performance and puzzling off-screen signals. While they bantered flirtatiously at times, they also seemed to drive each other, and the film's director, Billy Wilder, toward exasperation. Marilyn's stardom had come with a hefty price. The press constantly scrutinized her private life, speculating about who her new love interest might be, or how successful she was in her personal endeavors. Tony, too, found himself thrust under a microscope once the film became a hit. Critics and fans alike were eager to know every detail of their interactions. The dynamic they displayed on screen, playful, humorous, and seductive, became an object of intense fascination for the public. People assumed, not unreasonably, that a spark like that could only come from real-life chemistry. Yet, the first hints of scandal emerged from Tony's own mouth, setting the stage for one of the most controversial remarks in movie history: kissing Hitler. A shocking quip. In the aftermath of Some Like It Hot's success, Tony Curtis faced a barrage of questions about his experiences with Marilyn. Over and over, reporters drilled him. What was it like to kiss the most desired woman in Hollywood? Interviewers didn't just ask once. It seemed every outlet wanted a salacious soundbite. Tony, known for his quick wit and sometimes flippant humor, eventually offered a response that ricocheted through the media with explosive force. He compared kissing Marilyn Monroe to kissing Adolf Hitler. Given the time frame, World War II had ended only 14 years earlier, feelings toward Hitler were especially raw, and referencing him in any capacity could only be seen as a severe insult. Marilyn's legions of admirers were shocked, and tabloids pounced. Was Tony implying that Marilyn was distasteful or repugnant? Or was there more to the story? As the press frenzy escalated, Tony attempted to clarify that his outrageous remark was never meant literally. He insisted it was a sarcastic quip, fueled by frustration at repetitive questioning. According to him, it was his way of saying, "Why are you even asking if I enjoyed kissing the most glamorous star in Hollywood?" Yet, the damage had been done. The public was all too ready to interpret the line as a vicious jab aimed at Marilyn. In some corners of Hollywood, cynics wondered if Tony was, in fact, harboring deep resentment. Marilyn could be notoriously difficult on set. Her late arrivals, insistence on dozens of takes, and personal troubles might have soured Tony's impression of her. Others posited that he deliberately wanted to distance himself from rumors of any romance, which may have already begun circulating. Regardless of his motives, the "kissing Hitler" comment became a defining moment that loomed large over their shared legacy. Rumors behind the scenes. As the dust settled from Tony's incendiary remark, new whispers emerged that the two stars might have been harboring a secret relationship all along. Some called it a fling. Others labeled it an affair of grand passion. The intrigue intensified because both were married during filming. Marilyn's marriage to acclaimed playwright Arthur Miller was publicly recognized, though it faced significant strain. She yearned for a stable family life and reportedly hoped to have a child with Miller. Meanwhile, Tony Curtis was wed to actress Janet Leigh, a cinematic darling who would soon achieve immortality in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Tabloids couldn't resist the notion that these two glamorous performers, forced into close proximity on set for months, might have indulged in something scandalous. Tony's biting comment about kissing Marilyn took on a new dimension if he had actually been romantically entangled with her. Was it a clever ploy to mislead interviewers? Perhaps he was fending off the slightest hint that he had betrayed his wife, or that Marilyn had betrayed Arthur Miller. In a culture that relished sensational headlines, the idea that two major celebrities might have carried on a stealthy affair was irresistible gossip. At first, those rumors stayed mostly in the realm of speculation. Marilyn, overwhelmed by her own battles, emotional fragility, physical exhaustion, and relentless media scrutiny, did not openly address any secret romance with Tony. Arthur Miller, for his part, appeared to be in denial or simply uninterested in confronting allegations about his wife's fidelity. Nonetheless, Hollywood insiders quietly spread anecdotes. They claimed Tony and Marilyn shared furtive glances between scenes, occasionally slipped away for private lunches, or even engaged in passionate moments off the set. These stories were nearly impossible to verify, but the rumors kept building momentum, especially when Tony began dropping hints in interviews over the following years.
It's like kissing Hitler. What do you want from me? And the next thing I know, it's a big Megillah.
The pregnancy controversy. If an alleged behind-the-scenes affair wasn't dramatic enough, Tony Curtis later made an even more startling claim. Marilyn Monroe had become pregnant with his child during the production of Some Like It Hot. In the public eye, Marilyn was attempting to conceive with her husband, Arthur Miller. She had already suffered previous miscarriages and was famously vocal about her desire for motherhood. The strain of a high-profile life, coupled with her fragile mental health, did not make her pregnancy attempts any easier. Tony's assertion that he, not Miller, had fathered Marilyn's unborn baby instantly ignited a firestorm. Skeptics scoffed, saying Tony was merely seeking attention long after Marilyn's passing. After all, She died in 1962, and thus could never confirm or deny his claims. Believers countered by pointing out that Marilyn was visibly pregnant at certain points during filming. And she did indeed lose that child through a publicized miscarriage. The timing, some argued, lined up with Tony's version of events. Others pointed out that Marilyn's official physician never hinted at Tony's involvement, and none of Marilyn's close friends ever backed the claim that Tony was the father. Still, the story wouldn't fade. Decades later, Tony reiterated this alleged pregnancy in memoirs and interviews, adding new details each time. According to him, he and Marilyn once confronted Arthur Miller with the revelation. He recounted that the moment was fraught with tension, heartbreak, and fury. Tony claimed that after the confrontation, he was strictly instructed by the film's producers and staff to steer clear of Marilyn for the remainder of the shoot. In his telling, he learned of the miscarriage only through second-hand sources, having been effectively banished from her vicinity. With Marilyn gone and others hesitant to speak, there was no definitive evidence to confirm or debunk Tony's account. The pregnancy controversy remains one of the most talked-about mysteries of Marilyn's short, eventful life, and Tony's role in it remains a point of endless debate. Fallout for their marriages. The mid to late 1950s was a tense period for both Marilyn's and Tony's respective marriages. Marilyn and Arthur Miller had wed in 1956, bringing together two colossal figures. She, the embodiment of Hollywood's glitz, and he, an intellectual powerhouse celebrated for works like Death of a Salesman. Their union fascinated the public, but behind the scenes, they wrestled with differing lifestyles and emotional needs. Marilyn desired normalcy, but found it impossible to escape the paparazzi, persistent rumors, and the expectations of being an international sex symbol. Meanwhile, Tony Curtis had enjoyed a well-publicized relationship with Janet Leigh, forming one of Hollywood's most admired couples. They had children, including daughter Jamie Lee Curtis, who would go on to star in iconic films like Halloween. From the outside, Tony and Janet's marriage seemed stable, but Tony's roving eye was an open secret in Hollywood. The alleged affair with Marilyn, if true, would have been just one more instance of Tony straying from marital bounds. The repeated speculation about Tony and Marilyn occasionally placed both spouses in embarrassing positions. Arthur Miller had to confront headlines about Marilyn's supposed dalliances, which could only erode trust. Janet Leigh, on the other hand, faced the specter of her husband being romantically linked to the hottest star in Tinseltown. For a time, the rumor mill overshadowed the successes of both couples. Arthur Miller, struggling to maintain a sense of intellectual partnership with Marilyn, apparently grew resentful. Janet Leigh's public statements often skirted around the rumors, focusing instead on her own work or family. Ultimately, both marriages would end in divorce within a few years. By 1961, Marilyn and Miller parted ways. Tony and Janet's marriage also unraveled, though they held on until 1962 before officially divorcing. Whether the rumored fling accelerated these marital breakdowns is difficult to prove, but it surely added another layer of stress to an already demanding Hollywood lifestyle. In the years following Marilyn's tragic passing in 1962, under circumstances many believe involved an OD, the rumor mill around her private life only expanded. Without Marilyn available to answer questions or refute allegations, people from her orbit stepped in to offer their versions of events. Tony Curtis was one of the more vocal individuals, especially as he grew older and felt more comfortable addressing long-standing rumors. He shared stories in interviews, at times appearing to embellish details for dramatic effect. Skeptics noted that each retelling introduced new elements, additional clandestine meetings, more emotional intensity, or different timelines for the alleged romance. Those who believed Tony's narrative pointed out that memory can be complex, and that perhaps he was simply recalling long-buried details. Meanwhile, critics accused him of opportunism, dredging up unverified secrets about a beloved icon who wasn't around to set the record straight. In 2008, Tony co-authored a book about the making of Some Like It Hot, where he revisited the kissing Hitler controversy and the affair rumors. He stuck to his assertion that he and Marilyn were deeply involved. His more shocking claim, that Marilyn had carried his baby, came across as a confessional bombshell. He framed their relationship as a potent mix of infatuation, mutual admiration, and circumstantial hurdles. Some found the account heartfelt, while others deemed it self-serving. Tony lamented how they had to keep everything hidden, implying that studio executives and the film's director demanded secrecy for the sake of the production's success. After all, a scandal could have tarnished the film's prospects, particularly in an era where moral standards were outwardly strict. By the time Tony Curtis passed away in 2010 at the age of 85, he left behind a swirl of conflicting stories. With each telling, he insisted on the authenticity of his claims, professing that the love he shared with Marilyn was both exhilarating and doomed. To this day, fans and researchers remain divided about how much truth resided in his dramatic retellings. Since so many of the first-hand witnesses are gone, the factual certainty remains elusive. The decade-old entanglement. Beyond the drama surrounding Some Like It Hot, Tony once suggested that his connection with Marilyn started much earlier. As he recounted, their first romantic entanglement had begun a decade before filming that classic comedy, around 1949, when both were still forging their careers. In that era, Marilyn was just beginning to catch the public's eye through bit parts and modeling gigs, while Tony was struggling to stand out among Hollywood's swarm of aspiring leading men. According to Tony's reminiscences, they bonded over shared origins. Both had faced tough circumstances in their youth, and they spent a brief but intense period enjoying each other's company, mostly in secret. Some historians have tried to corroborate these anecdotes by tracing their movements through early publicity photographs and cameo roles, but hard evidence remains scarce. If Tony's account is to be believed, this early fling set the stage for a renewed spark when they found themselves cast together a decade later in Billy Wilder's comedic masterpiece. Some close associates of Marilyn have historically dismissed the notion that she and Tony were intimate before 1959. They point out that Marilyn's boyfriends from that earlier period are relatively well documented, including her relationships with Hollywood agents and minor league celebrities. Nonetheless, Tony stood by his story, weaving it into the greater tapestry of their later affair. He depicted Marilyn as a sensitive soul who could connect deeply with those who truly knew her. For him, their repeated reunion under the studio lights of Some Like It Hot was a continuation of an earlier bond, reignited by proximity and the thrilling environment of a big-budget production. Whether Tony embellished or recalled genuine events, this supposed decade-old link adds another mystique to the saga. Modern speculation and unanswered questions. As the decades have passed, Marilyn Monroe's legend has only grown. She stands as a symbol of timeless beauty, vulnerability, and the pitfalls of stardom. Tony Curtis, though not on the same pedestal, retains respect for his charming screen presence and comedic agility. The story of their relationship, if one indeed existed, serves as a reminder of how little we truly know about Hollywood's biggest icons once the spotlights dim. In recent years, fans and some tabloid outlets have re-examined Tony's claims, wondering if undisclosed diaries, letters, or testimonies might one day surface. The possibility of a hidden child between Marilyn and Tony fuels more dramatic speculation, though no evidence has ever materialized. Genetic testing for any potential heirs has never been pursued seriously, given that Marilyn did not carry a pregnancy to term that could be verified as Tony's. Still, conspiracy theories abound, including suggestions that studios went to great lengths to conceal scandalous details. Hollywood of the 1950s had a vested interest in maintaining the pristine images of its stars, and executives wielded formidable influence to keep negative press at bay. Meanwhile, some historians question Tony's motives, proposing that he may have exaggerated or invented certain aspects late in life for personal gain or relevance. As memory can distort over time, it's possible Tony believed his version wholeheartedly. With most central figures to the story no longer alive, absolute confirmation may remain forever out of reach. We only have scraps of testimony, conflicting narratives, and the intangible sense that something more than mere co-stardom was at play. This fog of half-truths and decades-old allegations continues to spark debate, ensuring that the lore surrounding Some Like It Hot lives on. Whether Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe were truly lovers or simply colleagues tolerating each other through a demanding film shoot, their story reflects the enduring fascination the world holds for Hollywood's golden age. Public figures of that era lived under intense scrutiny, facing rumor after rumor, forced to juggle complicated personal lives while preserving impeccable public images. For Marilyn, grappling with emotional fragility and a longing for genuine companionship, the lines between real connection and staged romance could easily blur. For Tony, seeking to assert himself among the movie industry's biggest names, the tension and excitement of working with Marilyn may have sparked feelings that contradicted his public statements. His bold, kissing Hitler remark cast a shadow over their relationship, yet he would later insist they shared a profound, if hidden, bond. Time has a way of distorting legends, and in the absence of concrete proof, the storyline often becomes more enthralling. We know Marilyn Monroe had a confirmed pregnancy that ended tragically in miscarriage during the Some Like It Hot production. Tony Curtis claimed he was the father, a revelation that still stuns many who hear it. Did he make this claim out of lingering affection, unresolved guilt, or a desire to keep the spotlight shining on a bygone chapter of his life? Did the studio truly intervene to separate them, orchestrating a cover-up to protect everyone's reputations? The only people who could have answered these questions definitively are no longer with us, leaving their fans to weigh conflicting narratives. The parallel arcs of Marilyn and Tony's lives, both cresting in popularity around the same era, culminated in that one film that remains a comedic masterpiece. Yet behind the laughter and high jinks, a puzzle persists. Some say Tony's stories are pure fabrication. Others argue that Marilyn and Tony's late-night rendezvous were an open secret, hidden only by the thin veneer of Hollywood's carefully curated public image. Whichever side of the debate you land on, there's no denying the potency of their combined star power and the timeless intrigue that their alleged liaison continues to generate. In the end, Some Like It Hot stands as more than just a comedic gem. It's also a window into the complexities of celebrity life in the 1950s. We see how fleeting fame can be, how fleeting life itself can be, and how a single flippant remark can endure for decades, overshadowing an entire behind-the-scenes reality. While Tony Curtis later endeavored to set the record straight, his revelations often created new uncertainties. Marilyn, forever silenced at the age of 36, left behind an aura of mystery that will likely never fade. Their story, in all its contradictory glory, remains an essential Hollywood puzzle. One part glamorous fantasy, one part tragedy, and a generous measure of human fallibility. Decades on, fans continue to dissect every clue, chasing the hope that one day we might uncover the definitive truth about what really happened between Marilyn Monroe and Tony Curtis.